Yeah, so I was just watching the news, and the Foreign Secretary from the US, Blinken, came over to Israel to help try and solve this conflict or to make a statement, basically. And he said, what we need now is moral clarity. Clarity. And then he went on to support Netanyahu's view that the Gazans were evil and that the Israelis were the poor victims and that they would support Israel no matter what, with everything they could possibly need. And I thought, it doesn't sound like clarity to me. That just sounds like supporting one narrative. Because the fact of the matter is this: everybody's debating to figure out who is right and who is wrong. Now, the Israelis have a very elaborate reasoning for why it's their land. It's theirs. They don't have to share, how they're God ordained, how the Palestinians are less. And they've got every reason why they've dominated them and herded them into this vast compound on the West Bank in Gaza. And then the Gazians, they also have their story about why it's their land and how awful Israel has been and how evil they are. And what you see is that here we have these two narratives, each one making the owner of it right. And then in the world, there is a fight over narratives. So basically, Blinken comes in and supports the Israeli narrative. And then part of that narrative is that part of the narrative is that Hamas should be projected as ISIS was, as a terrorist group. And they try to inject the idea that the people of Israel are not one with Hamas, that Hamas is doing it off their own accord and the Palestinian people want something else. But that may not be how the Palestinians are seeing it. From the Palestinian side, it seems as if Hamas are very much representing and expressing incredible frustration at being dominated in an apartheid system. This is how they see it. And if they see it that way, they're living it that way. A viewer from the outside may go, well, no, it's not. It's not officially an apartheid system. But you're not living in it. So that these two narratives, so it becomes a battle for the narrative. Whose narrative about what is happening is right? Well, what would clarity say? My view is that clarity would say this: there is no doubt that this conflict is happening. Number one. Number two, nobody amongst the Gazans and no one amongst the Israelis and no one else in the world sees it the same way. No two people see it the same way. The conflict is occurring to everybody differently. It occurs to the Palestinians in one way as a tremendous oppression, and now they're finally being able to fight back for a moment against overwhelming odds. They haven't got any planes, they haven't even got support really from neighbors. So they know they're going to lose just by sheer, and America comes in with the aircraft carriers and all that and parks right next to it. They know they're not going to win, but they can't stand anymore. That's who they're being. So, and each one of them will see it differently as well. And in the same way, the Israelis, this is their promised land. This is what God promised them. They're special. They're chosen. And this has been how it's been for generations. And so, and look how God has shown how great we are. And they feel fully justified in that view and indignant and see their enemy as evil. So what is truth? Okay, there's many different stories, many different narratives, many different viewpoints. There's many viewpoints on this situation as there are people. But what is the truth? Is there an objective truth about it? And there isn't. There's just perspective. So you've got an American perspective coming out of Blinken. You have to take into account he's a politician. He's not doing what he feels is right. He's doing what is expedient. And you look from the other side, the Palestinians. Wow, who they're being. So violent, so vicious, so cruel. So much hate is being released. Really astonishing amount of hate. Because when those kind of atrocities are committed, that's what it's expressing. Real, deep-rooted hatred. And it's an evil and vile force. And it's not just coming from, it's been building up in the Palestinians over decades. But equally, through all that's happened, the Israelis, they don't really like the Palestinians. They hate them, they dominate them, and sometimes say they should be wiped off the face of the earth. So recognizing that there's no objective truth about this. So then the whole deal about fighting for the narrative, maybe we can move forward in the way that we resolve conflicts. Because at the moment, it's about control of the narrative and getting control through force. But what about understanding where everybody else is coming from? Because the Israelis really need to see what the Palestinians are feeling about what they're doing. It matters. Maybe they're feeling that the Israelis are not considering them. And do the Palestinians know what the Israelis are feeling? And how come those feelings can't be brought into discussion? How their causes can't be worked out? How their payoffs can't be worked out? How if a genuine transformation in who Israel is being, that Palestine is, a genuine transformation, and a genuine transformation through owning where you're actually at from the Palestinians in who they're being that the Israelis are. Because neither is going away. It has to be cooperation. We have to be able to live together. And so, it's a different angle that we're going to have to start using to resolve conflicts, because we've gone about as far as we can go in this way. Because if we keep on using force and not talking, not processing, not seeing who we're being about things such that they can transform naturally, conflicts will resolve themselves, if they're real, naturally, if we talk and be with each other. But if there's lying and deceit and cheat and having two faces, and arrogance and ego in any party in the conflict, then, of course, the simple way through won't be seen. So the very first thing is, once we've battered each other to pieces, to actually get to the place where, you know what, we do want peace. Do we want peace? Do we want peace? Or not? Or do we want to be right? Or do we want to show that might is right? Or do we just not want to forgive, not want to cohabit, fight to the very end, see whose guard is stronger? That's a way of being. We have to transform that way of being if we want our children and grandchildren to live in peace. Some things have to transform in the way that we're communicating. The first recognition is that there is no objective reality about it. There is no way that it is. How it appears is given by who each one is being that it is. Who you're being that it is gives you how you get it, whatever it is. There isn't any way that it is. It is, but there's no way that it is. So, could we create a narrative that leads to lasting peace? And if we had to do that, what would it look like? A story leading from where the Palestinians are right now, being contained in a very small space and then bombed without any possibility of escape. And on the other hand, we have the Israelis shocked and full of fear and hopefully feeling stronger and, you know, righteous and everything. So it was a momentum that brought both sides to that point. How would the momentum have to go for it to come to a resolution permanently? What would have to shift? And that's something that people need to be present to. Because if it doesn't go this route, there won't be any shift. The possibility here is for a shift in the relationship between these two entities. And very often the shifts happen immediately after a great amount of conflicting energy manifests. But what would have to happen? What would it look like? Israel goes, yeah, you know what? Okay, we're done with that. You are our brothers. We're gonna set up a whole new system where you have a certain amount of autonomy, and we do, and we share it, and there's some things we share. And we're going to rebuild your cities, and we're going to start doing things together. You know, or both sides coming up with a thing about Jerusalem where it's a golden hub for those who worship God, of all religion, moving forward. Because if we don't, we're going to keep on playing this drama out, rolling it around until it's too late. Because either we will have to move on from it at some point. We can't just keep having it like it's been since the last 20 years, this apartheid thing. It's going to have to change. There is a solution. There is a beautiful possibility for Palestine and Israel to live together. And that's the first thing that has to be invented, the possibility that there could be a solution. And that creates a space for something to drop in. Because infinite intelligence can certainly come up with a pathway to peace. If there's that will there, if that possibility is truly invented by both sides. the possibility for something really significantly wonderful coming out of where we are now, that is amazing. If it went the wonderful route, if clarity did prevail, proper clarity, not just clear on the story, that's not being clear on the story, that's not clarity. Clarity is non-dual. Clarity is a place that's constant. Clarity is where you see that there is no way that anything is. It's only how it appears. And everything appears differently to everybody. That's clarity. So then moving on from that, having seen that there is no way that it is, to start generating possibilities for something wonderful that affects the whole world. They come together so beautifully, the Palestinians and the Israelis, the Muslims and the Jews and the Christians, that there's this feeling like, wow, we've really moved on. And a feeling around the world that we're not adding to doom, that we're not contracting, that we're radiating. Because the narrative is not the reality. The narrative is not the reality. Wow. The narrative is not the reality. The part I'm playing in the story of my life, that's not who I am. That's the part I'm playing. Peace.